Hello there. Welcome to another exciting episode of Fargo Retro. My name is Eric, and I'm bringing you the next installment here of looking at Project Ogre Brothers. Fun little game I'm working on, paying homage to Ogre Battle. So, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the updates here since the last video. There's a lot of stuff that I really want to kind of discuss here that we've updated. First things first, if you look in the corner here of the window, there is a little icon. I figured out how to do that. I'm still working on the taskbar icon. I know how to do that. I just need to design it and implement it. Another thing that's really interesting is that you can use the PlayStation Mini USB controller. So I was a big fan of the PlayStation Mini only because I got it for $25 and it came with that sweet USB controller that's great for retro emulating on your computer. So I am actually making that the preferred way to play this game, and I'm actually kind of designing around that. So I'm currently using that to move around. That's really cool. We've done a fair amount of work here in the options. I'm going to actually jump into one of them right away. The audio options are totally feature complete. So boom, look at that. You can turn the sound effects on and off. You can turn the background music on and off. And you can change the volume. Let me turn those on while we do that. So you can change the volume. Boom. And let's go back to here. Boom. See? That was real cool. You can turn them on, you can turn them off, you can turn the volume up, you can turn it down. It's really great. So it's the first thing that's totally feature complete in the game. Obviously, there's still some UI polish that needs to be done here. I don't like the way this looks. But yeah, that is really cool. The audio menu is totally feature complete. Wanted to show that off. Otherwise, the resolution system is built. I'm sure you'll see it, the big black window that appeared there. That totally works here, switching between full screen as I showed you in the last video. That works as well. So in figuring out this resolution issue, I realized that I'm going to need to scale up the art, scale up the UI for that switch. So it's still in progress. We'll see if I actually get around to doing that. Might scrap it altogether. But yeah, that process is going pretty good. Otherwise, the custom keys enable controller. I haven't really worked on any of that. The controller works. Right now, I haven't really set it up to actually turn the controller off yet. I don't know if there's really a reason to do that, but I think I might just include that option. It's not currently built in, but I'm planning on doing that. Um, Other updates that we have can kind of be seen in our uh, army management screen here. Um, right now, you'll see that there's some overlap of the characters. I was just kind of testing how they would look in the different positions in the unit as I kind of have it set up, and the UI windows do look bad, which is kind of what I anticipated. I kind of built the UI windows so that there would be a little space in between it, so you couldn't put the units that close together. And just for testing purposes, I have that disabled, and it's kind of randomizing where they're being put in the unit. I did fix a couple of problems here. There's a temporary fix I mentioned the last time that the unit gets deleted right away. When you press that, that's no longer the case. You actually have to go through and delete it now. There's some responsiveness. You'll see it says deleted. You'll also see the reserve unit window is totally fixed. There's not that glitch with that first character in that first spot. So. Again, that just says AE because I need to actually do all of the ASCII characters. I've only done A, C, and E, just kind of as like a placeholder for a character name, unit name sort of thing. Um, at some point when I have some free time, I'll finish making ASCII, the other 23 characters and some numbers and that kind of thing. Um, so there is a temporary fix for the buttons. I don't like how that system works, and uh, I guess I spilled the beans a little bit early there. I did get animations built into the game there. If you look in that first unit in the top left there, there's a little bar that's scrolling through. Yeah, so I wanted to kind of prove that I could animate things in this here, and so that is our first rudimentary animation. Again, it doesn't do anything right now, but it's just kind of a taste of things to come. Um, let's go ahead and pop back out to that world map here, and we'll see that I'm kind of working on some more UI elements. So I'm kind of mocking up how I would like lists and stuff to kind of look. I'm thinking that box size is about what I want. Also working on the text box there. So character name. This is the tale of how two brothers decided to throw tradition to the wind and go to war together. So hopefully that all can kind of swap around. Here's some sample text lines. There's me practicing some different font sizes, that kind of thing. Um, so that's all cool and coming together, and it's really where I've spent most of my work here, and it's where the most amount of work still remains, is getting the UI lined up and cleaned up and everything like that. But it is making progress. So we've done the animations, the multiple text boxes, as you've seen this sample text, and then that one about the brothers throwing caution to wind. I don't have it quite lined up because again, it's all sort of testing stuff. I was hoping to get it to fire again, but I can't. And you'll also notice that that animated object isn't deleting either. Um, Again, that's just kind of for testing purposes right now. Once the game is farther along, that should all clear up. So let's go ahead and click the last set of updates here from the last video are kind of important. They're kind of related to that animation. And there's some UI indicators of kind of what's going on the screen, so you can see who's attacking and who's being targeted. The green arrow indicates who's attacking. The red arrow is who's being targeted, and whether the attack hits or misses is now visually being displayed. So that's just to kind of help with the animation process and just kind of help with the testing here, kind of prove to people that the stuff I say is happening in the game is happening. So. Something that I think is important to talk about here is that the UI window is also coming along. If you look at the enemy UI window, it's a different color. The sprites are sort of mirrored in relation to how it kind of the allied unit looks. You know, that on the allied unit, the character icon is on the left, and then the health bar and all of that is on the right. It's the opposite there. The health bar is on the left, the character is on the right, so it kind of gives the feeling that they're coming at each other. You'll also kind of notice that the enemy unit actually matches up correctly. The allied unit, the blue unit, does not. So the cleric, he's the top unit, the top right unit in the UI box, but he's the top left unit on the battle screen. So I have to get that fixed out, but it is working correctly on the enemy side. That is really, really cool. That is good progress. Yeah, so that's all I got for um, updates in the game. I thought the next thing that would be really interesting would be to take a look at some of the code here, some of the progress being made there. So I took the interface file, which was the biggest file in the game there, and I broke it up. I took some stuff out of there. It was starting to get really scary to work with, really unwieldy. So I took out um, some of the modules here. I created 4 new files, so a mod text, mod text, mod audio, mod UI element, and mod UI window. Obviously, the text functions were moved into this one. The mod text, the audio manager was moved into mod audio. The UI elements now have the buttons, the cursors, the health bars, and the UI windows have that uh, UI window plus some sub window classes. That's another thing that's kind of changed in between the last video too. That I'm in the process of creating sort of a universal UI window and then creating sub windows to sort of represent the functions and everything that it needs. So that's really helping. Again, it's a lot of words and there's not a lot to show for it right now, but it's a really good progress. So I'm hoping to work through the list box UI next. It's really empty right now, but that's going to be the kind of box that's going to show you like all of the items that you would have in your inventory, for example, to equip to your soldiers. And ideally, that's going to have scrolling and that kind of stuff on it. So that is next. Those are kind of my big next steps. mod text and mod audio are very similar, so I thought we might take a quick look at that. They kind of work in very sort of similar manners, and since the audio manager is feature complete, I thought we could look at that really quickly. So, first things first, again, the audio manager is feature complete. Everything I want it to do in the game, it does. That's awesome. It can be improved, obviously. A lot of the UI elements around it need to be improved, but the mechanics of it aren't going to change a ton. So there's basically two parts of the audio. There's background music and there's sound effects. There's a list of background music. There's a list of sound effects. Just as I need new things, you make sure to create a file, give it a name in here. They're just in order, exactly like the old games that had sound tests, like on the Sega Genesis and stuff like that. I might put a secret sound test or something in there at some point. But again, there's a list of background music, there's a list of sound effects, and then there's a dictionary of loaded sound effects, and that starts out empty. When the game starts, this is just called one time to initialize the audio. That kind of gets everything set. Here, the initializer, gives you the right channels and the playback speed, that kind of thing. I load the music volume in, and then I call the next file here load sound effects. And what that does is that looks for each item here in this list of sound effects. It loads it into this dictionary here with the sound volume that's currently assigned to the interface, and kind of has all of those loaded and ready for us. I do it that way just because I don't want to have to like load the sound each time it's needed, even though, yeah, like there's a little bit of strain by loading the sound effects early and just having them in the memory versus, calling them each time they're needed. There's a couple of different ways of doing it. I just decided to have things loaded early. Um, so if you change the audio in the interface, it's going to then call this function here. Basically, it's going to clear out that dictionary of loaded sound effects. The volume for the music, the background music's really easy to switch over. All you have to do is just change that volume, just right there. The audio manager, the sound effects is a little bit different. Then it has to rerun this load sound effects thing with the new adjusted sound. So that is going to be lower. The music manager here is sort of a state manager. And how that works is, um, well, I guess we'll just finish here with the volume changing super quick here. So the interface, whenever you change it at that interface level, it clears the loaded sound effects, then it switches the music volume, and then it reloads the sound effects. This can cause some performance issues due to if I add too many sound effects as well. So it's not just loading them and changing them or whatever. If I ever decide to have too many sound effects, that could cause a problem as well. So you got to keep that scope in check here. So the music manager determines the background music to play, kind of based on the current game state here. As you see, that's kind of highlighted. From the interface, I will probably need to change this a little bit different here, as if I want to add a specific sound at a specific song, like in a battle or something like that, or during a story mission. Um, I don't know that my system right now is going to be able to handle that very well. So um, the music manager is also called pretty frequently. Again, it confirms that the song is on the right track, is on the right screen. That it's called every run frame, but it also makes sure that we should be playing music. So once I have that, this is also kind of what checks for those sound effects and those musics and everything, and make sure they play. So. Otherwise, the sound effects manager is the last thing I want to talk about here as it relates to the code. So every action that has a sound is added to the interface object, and then this function is called once per frame, and then it plays all the pending sound effects. It's probably a bad system for an action game where there's a lot of stuff going on, but it really should work for like my strategy management games that I'm kind of into. So just real quick here, we'll look at the interface. We'll take a look at an example of how that looks. So down here in the interface function, where some of the logic exists to determine whether or not a press, there's like a valid confirm press or anything like that. So let's say you're trying to select something here. If you're not able to select it, play the bad sound effect. It'll add that to the interface object. Otherwise, if you are able to press the button, add the good sound effect, the positive selection here. What is the button doing? is just an example here, and the options key, that kind of thing. So anytime a function or something happens in the game interface itself is going to add a sound effect to the interface, and then later, as that run is being called, the audio manager is going to call the sound effect manager and play those. It's going to play all of the sounds that are loaded in a frame. Again, it's probably not going to work super well for multiple, uh, action games, that kind of thing. But I don't really like action games. So next steps, really what's important to do here is I have to finish the UI. I need UI windows for everything, like inventory, characters, and the things needed to finish off the strategy menu. The strategy menu here is the thing I really, really want to finish. That's when I'm going to kind of consider the game presentable to people. So I need to have windows that are able to handle editing units. I need to have windows that are needed to be able to create units. I need to have windows that are going to be able to show us specific information about characters, and that kind of thing, and equipment, details on that equipment, and the formations and everything like that. So that stuff is in progress. It is the hardest part of game design, probably. And yeah, so those are where we're at. So I kind of identified that I need larger graphics, especially in the battle scene. I think the size of the graphics for this is great. I think this works really well for this part of the menu. But then the test fight is a little too small. So I want to shrink the size of the battle window, make it look a little bit closer to the one in that strategy window. Still have it, flip colors and everything like that. And I still want it to have a little bit extra space for status effects. Um, but that's obviously still in progress. And then once that happens, this window's going to look really, really bare. So I'm going to probably at least double the size of the sprites, if not, quadruple it. I think right now I have them at 32 by 32. It's possible they're 64 by 64. Um, but yeah, and that sucks. That's gonna be a really big debt because I'm bad at art. These placeholder sprites are okay. They get the job done, but they're small, and the bigger you make a sprite, the worse the lack of detail is. So, um, but I think placeholder art's gonna work for this type of game. If I sell some copies, it's possible I can hire somebody to help me with the art. I also know a guy who does art. Maybe he's interested in helping me out and doing some. So we'll see. And then, yeah, the next thing then after that is to animate the fight. So obviously you see that little animated guy up in the left corner there, still working through it. I can animate things, I know how, um, conceptually, but it's just getting that arc done and working through the process. So being able to kind of display the fight as it goes through is a big moving forward towards that animation, because really all it is just fire some missing scenes, in between those changes there. That's, I don't know, and get the UI able to do that. And then, yeah, the last sort of thing about the UI, I didn't specifically mention it here, but you see that name popping up in the middle. I want to work on more UI boxes like that. I've kind of set it up so that things can be aligned left, center, or right as it relates to text, or aligned in the middle of a box. So it'll just kind of be expanding out where UI windows and bubbles and that kind of thing are going to be appropriate. So this is a little bit longer of a video, but that's because it's not really tracking like 2 weeks of updates here from Ogre Battle. It's actually tracking like 6 or 7 months. I didn't work on it a lot here since the spring, but I did work on it some. I probably put maybe 20, 30 hours into it total in the last 6 months. I've been pretty busy doing other things, but um, the work continues. So, yeah, my name is Eric. Thank you for watching another exciting episode of Fargo Retro. Let's go ahead and heal up all of our combatants. And we'll end things on a fight. Appreciate you hanging out here. I might hit that 20-minute mark, so let's go. Ah, what a boring fight. So I didn't know about, I'll probably have to add a miss sound effect. So I'll put that on a note. Add a miss sound effect. I have one, I just thought it would fire too often and sound stupid. Alright, player damage 13, opponent damage 94, significant enemy victory. Yeah, as you see, one of the characters died there, so... come on. Oh, and then that helped me identify a bug. Only dealt damage should be tracked. So, cool. Yeah, alright, that's all I got, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day, and take care, everybody.